We are live! Welcome back to Empire State of Baseball on a Monday, June the 3rd, 2024, airing on Instagram, X, and YouTube, and as always, powered by StreamYard for number 87. And Thomas, you're joining me, and that's all. It is just a two-man show tonight. Classic Savages in the Bronx, and I always like to reference, hit myself with the book, because that's what we used to do on the old show.
We didn't do that. You did that.
Okay,
I sat here like a normal person.
We're a team, Tom. So there's no I in team. In team, it's we. So if I hit myself with the book, we are hitting ourselves with the book.
I'm just gonna assume you did that on purpose because you can't be that dumb.
Okay, well, listen, hit myself with the book enough times, so
there you go.
Some damage to the old cranium. But yeah, no Corey, no Joe tonight. A little bit more on a serious note. Just want to send our best wishes out to Corey and Joe. Both got some things going on personally. So we just want to send our best love out to Corey and Joe at this time. So hopefully by next week, we'll be a team of four once again. But tonight, it's just going to be Tom and I. So for a very, very Yankee-dominated version of Empire State of Baseball, to say the least. Thomas, before we get into it, how was your weekend, sir?
It's good. Had a wedding down in South Jersey on Saturday at Renault Winery. Never been there. Crazy big venue for a winery. This place has multiple wedding venues, bars, restaurants. It was awesome. Got pretty drunk on some cab and just lived my life. Yeah, just got after. You know, you figure out a winery, you drink the wine, right? Like they had beer, they had liquor, but if I'm at the winery, let's get after it.
I mean, listen, you know, I have no contesting of a good bottle of wine, good glass of wine. You had a good cab. I've become a Malbec guy.
I don't know if it was a good cab, but I did drink a lot of it.
All right, well, fair enough. Okay, well, listen, acquired taste. I respect it. It's rich, it's oaky, it's smoky, whatever the hell they taught me out in Napa Valley. But I'm not here to give you guys a lesson on what goes down in the Valley in California. We're here to talk baseball tonight. And Thomas, a few members of the chat are rolling in. And how about we do what we always do? Let's shout out those members thus far. Jacob Petruzzi is getting an award for most committed member. He just jumps in so early on into the lobby. I have him stamped here at 7:49 p.m. Eastern time. So shout out to Jacob Petruzzi. We also have
before you were.
He certainly was. I was doing last minute stuff, and he was in there before I was. Nithin Ramatandra of the NR Hour Sports Show. Make sure you're following Nithin at the NR Hour over on X, Instagram, YouTube. He and his team do amazing work. And we're going to get a little bit more into Nithin and his team later on tonight before we close out the show, because thanks to Nithin, we're able to do something cool for you guys in about a few weeks' time, but we'll talk more about that later on tonight. Then we have Hitman over with the Boogie Nights crew. Shout out to Hitman. And speaking of Boogie Nights, we have Boogie Down himself, my guy Danny, Boogie Down Bombers, as you've seen before here in our chat. He's checking out the show tonight. We got Jack Esposito in the house. And we have my guy, Chris Nieves, over at Yankees Pod, over at Boogie Nights, over at Morning Brew Sports. Chris wears a lot of hats. So shout out to Chris and the rest of the crew. And I believe we have one more to just join us. Oh, yes, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Big fan of street tacos. Love a good street taco. Thank you, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. You're shaking your head. What, you don't like street tacos? I
said who isn't?
Yeah, right? That's what I'm saying.
Delightful.
That is what I'm saying. Thomas, a few guys that are here, a few guys and gals out here on the show. We got 20 people in the building already. 4 minutes into the damn thing. Thank you so much for it. But what show do we have on tap for our live viewers right now on Empire State of Baseball?
Yeah, we're gonna keep it high and tight this Monday night here. We're gonna start off with the Empire Express. We'll touch probably a little bit on the Mets, but who wants to talk about those sad sacks? We're talking about the Yankees, the Empire Express, to start the show off. Then we're going to go to the Chooch for his pick of the week and see what he has going on, what he's thinking, who are his players to watch. And then we're going to finish up the show first with 3 up, 3 down. Rich and I are going to go over our confidence, who we're confident in, who we're not so confident in, as we are about a third of the way into the season. And then finally, we're going to end with a trick of the trade, which will just be one because it's just 2 of us here. And that'll be it.
Yep. And Joey Bag of Donuts, shout out to Joey Bag of Donuts, host of the Morning Drive, along with Aaron. They both co-host the show. Wait, something's wrong here. Joey Bag of Donuts is correct in that it's a 2-man show for the first time in a while. Tom, I don't think we've ever done the 2-man show on Empire State of Baseball with any combination of the 4 of us. So we've done 3-man shows, never done a 2-man show.
No, other than I think, did we do any for some of the preseason? Those weren't full shows, maybe. I don't know. I think those were all 3-mans. Yeah. So just the Yankee side here, and let's get it done.
Let's get it done. And as a reminder, of course, make sure you're following us and subscribe to us on all our platforms, but especially YouTube. We're streaming live on Instagram as of last week. And shout out to my folks over on Instagram as well. I'm seeing the comment stream come through on the laptop here. So shout out to those who are checking us out on Instagram live, also over on X. But listen, if you join us on Instagram, you join us on X, and maybe those 2 platforms don't want to hear it, but I don't care. Come join us over on YouTube. That's where the fun's at. That's where the comment stream is at. That's where you're going to get the full experience. After the hour mark, the Instagram cuts out. So you want to come over to YouTube, subscribe to us, and be a part of the best chat here on YouTube live streams, period. So let's get into it. The Empire Express, and typically Thomas, too much alliteration for a Monday. We usually talk about the New York Mets, and we're going to talk about the New York Mets. We might keep it very abridged here to talk about the New York Mets, but we'll keep the Yankees talk going in a little bit. But let's talk about this New York Mets team, as Tom and I, huge supporters of the Metropolitans on the other side of the East River. This New York Mets team stinks, to say the least. They are now 24-35, 16 and a half games out of the NL East. That is forever lost. The NL wild card, I'm not sure how far into the mix they are with the NL wild card. Maybe my guy Thomas can pull it up while I'm running through some of these numbers here. For a team that was like one of the better teams in National League ERA, have fallen from grace down to a 4.25 ERA, 11th in that category, a 1.33 WHIP, 12th in that category. Offensively, not any prettier. Although I have checked as of late, a lot of the core members that Joe had gone on a rant about last week or 2 weeks ago, I forgot which one. I'm confusing his rant dates. Lindor, Pete Alonso, Starling Marte have started to hit in the last 7 days. So maybe it could be turning the right direction for the New York Mets on the offensive side of the house, where the pitching has faltered. Thomas, did you pull up that number?
I did here. So the Mets are actually only 5 games out of the last wild card spot in the NL. There are only 2 teams behind them. Only the Colorado Rockies and Miami Marlins are worse. They're 5 back, but they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams ahead of them, including 7 teams if you count the Cardinals, who have that spot. So, listen, it's a long season. They do have a talented roster. It seems like their story has been for the last year and a half of pitching's good, hitting's bad, hitting's good, pitching's bad. They could maybe fight their way to get close. I mean, it would take a lot for them to do it. But we also we highlighted in our preseason show that the NL isn't that deep this year. It's very top heavy, especially with the Dodgers and the Braves. And then the Phillies as well. And then after that, there's not a lot of good going on in the NL. So listen, they very well could try to fight their way. And Brewers also been doing well this year, except when they played the Yankees and got spanked, losers. So
surprisingly, a lot of bad teams in the league, but also surprisingly some good teams. You look at the American League Central, Thomas. I don't know if you checked. I know we're talking about the National League right now. There are 3 teams in the AL Central with an upstanding record above 500 between the Guardians, Royals, and Twins. So it's been a weird year already for a lot of these teams. Even the Braves, who fall into 6.5 games behind, which we just pulled up here before in the National League East. Still one of the better teams in that league. But for the New York Mets, and Tom, we gave Joe, the business when it came to him selecting the Mets to take that 3rd wild card spot. But it's not too unrealistic, if that makes any sense. That NL wild card is going to be up for grabs. How many times we mentioned the Phillies and the Diamondbacks possibly being NL wild card favorites, and yet the Phillies are running away with the National League East at this point, and the Diamondbacks don't look like that World Series contending Diamondbacks from last year. So could be an odd turn of events for the New York Mets.
Yeah, and also just want to circle back real quick on the AL Central. You mentioned they have some teams that have some pretty good winning percentages. Only one team in the AL Central has a above 500 winning percentage against teams that are above 500. So they're just beating up on their other crappy teams in their division. Sure. The AL Central still stinks. The big story, I think, though, for the Mets, though, just to kind of, I guess, wrap up their storyline. Oh, well, Jorge Lopez too. So let's look at Jorge Lopez before we keep going here. Yeah, what a weird night. This was Friday night. Yeah, I mean, first, I guess, and foremost, right, it's really difficult for a lot of these guys, especially who, if English is not their first language, to try to explain what's going on. And there was the question, was he calling out his teammates? And then it seems like people thought he was, and then it sounded like he doubled down on it, but but then kind of walked it back. I don't know. It also sounds there's a lot of other things going on with Jorge Lopez. Mets ended up DFAing him through all of this, through this throwing of the glove in the stands, and then afterwards here. So I don't know. Weird situation that was going on.
Yeah, it's weird, and I'll ask the chat right now. So chat, again, the conversation is, did Lopez essentially say worst team or teammate? What did you hear when you heard the audio back? Worst team or worst teammate? What did Jorge Lopez said? And
I don't think it matters what we heard. The fact that it's not his. He doesn't really speak English is the much more challenging part of that for him.
Sure, but it does add to the context of what went on in the situation, because obviously if everybody understood it as worst teammate, then it's like, all right, whatever. But because people have understood it as worst team, and listen, I can go back and forth on it because there's multiple times I listen back on the audio and it does sound like he's saying worst teammate as opposed to worst team. It's just, I think it's also this whole thing of that's not the attitude you want after a game like that. And he showed the wrong type of body language. He's shown the wrong attitude. Him flipping his glove into the stands. Not what you need to see from a Major League Baseball pitcher, especially a veteran, Jorge Lopez. So I don't blame the Mets in DFAing a player like that. But I also kind of hate for Lopez that he's being vilified as this toxic cancer, to say the least, for a team's dugout. I think a team will eventually give Lopez a shot. But at the end of the day, Lopez, bad body language, not a great attitude there following that Mets loss. And I think the Mets made the right decision in cutting him.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the Mets. You don't want to throw gas on the tire fire that is the 2024 Mets, but there seems like they are in desperate need, and Joe's been saying it for weeks, and Corey as well. They need to kind of clean house. I think. I don't know if all this is Carlos Mendoza's fault. I think you kind of have to get rid of him, and just everyone, the players you can get rid of in this offseason and start fresh, because it just seems like it's just a bad vibe going on in Queens. And I don't know. I think a lot needs to change there before they can kind of get back to their winning ways.
100%.
Yeah, but listen, if we want to start transitioning to the Yankees here.
Of course,
I don't think there's a better way to juxtapose what is going on in the two baseball teams in New York than what happened yesterday afternoon into the evening. The Mets having a 1-run lead going into the 9th inning, blowing the game. Ketel Marte's a 2-run homer. Mets lose. I think 5-4 is the final. Yankees have already won the series against the Giants. Going into the bottom of the 9th, thinking, hey, if we lose this game, we still had a very successful 6-3 road trip out west. You feel good about that. And then the Yankees put up 4 and go from down 2 to up 2. Juan Soto hits 2 home runs in the game. Volpe triple. Stanton then with a double out into triples alley. Would have loved to see him try to leg out a triple. That would have been fun to watch. But that's what is going on with these two teams. The Mets are going down and going down fast. And the Yankees, it seems like they can't lose right now. And who knows? It's June 3rd. There's a lot of season ahead of us. We might feel different on July 3rd. But right now, this feels like they can't lose. It feels like they can't lose right now. And if they lose, it's because something fluky happened. And then they'll just win the next 2 or the next 3 and then just kind of make it like it never happened.
Right, exactly. And this team seems to be winning pretty much any ball game. They're either trailing or not. It's at this point now where any loss just seems like a tough loss for the Yankees. That's how good of ball they're playing. This May that we just saw was one of the best single months I've ever seen this team play. And they started the month coming off of that 3 of 4 game loss to Baltimore. And all I was saying after that series was done was, that's the team I want to face next. I want to see this Yankees team face Baltimore for another 4 games because I know this team can take the Orioles to the limit. And listen, it's not like the Orioles blew the Yankees out of the water at the beginning of the season. The Yankees have gone and shown that when Juan Soto and Aaron Judge, and I'll even throw Anthony Volpe in there, when you have those 3 guys clicking at the same time, no team's going to beat you. No team's going to beat you. Your pitching has to falter for your team to lose games. But the problem with that is, Tom, let's look at the pitching numbers once again. 2.78 ERA, best in the American League. 2.10 batting average against, best in the American League. I mean, this team is clicking on all cylinders. We're a week away from filling out that entire column with gold right there. That's how great this team has been. The 3-game lead over the Orioles. And listen, it's going to be a dogfight for the American League East, not counting out the Orioles on June the 3rd, 2024. This division can easily flip within a week. That's how good they're playing ball as well. So I cannot discredit what the Orioles are doing. The Yankees are on another level of ball playing, a level of ball playing that I honestly have not seen since 2009.
No, it's been fantastic. I was mentioning before with the AL Central, the records against teams above 500. Yankees are 12-8 against teams over 500. Orioles are 18-7. So the Orioles are also very real. The Yankees do have the best run differential in baseball. The only team has over 100 or plus 107 on the year, if that is something you're into. They are also, I think, they have given up the least amount of runs. So they've given up the least amount of runs, and they have scored not the 3rd most runs in baseball. So yeah, that's pretty good. Also, fun fact, if we're just gonna go back to the NL, what do you think? So the Phillies are doing great. What do you think the Phillies record is for teams over 500?
Phillies record teams over 500.
It's kind of been a bit of a storyline this year. Again, for the record, the Yankees are 12-8.
12-8. Okay, so 20 games. Let's use the same 20 game measurement right there, and I'm gonna say, let's say the reverse, 8-12.
So that's where you messed up. The Phillies are 4-2. They have played 6 games against teams over 500.
Wow. I kind of wish you told me how many games were being factored in here.
Well, that's the jarring part. They've only played 6 games against teams who are over 500. That's wild. Wow. That's not their fault, but geez, that is insane. But yeah, let's go back to the Yankees. I saw that and I had to mention it.
Yes.
They've been incredible. It's, you start to get these thoughts of are we peaking too early? But then you also remember that guy Garrett Cole's going to come back, and then that guy who I know we're going to also talk about here, Jason Dominguez, might be coming back at some point. Yes. So there are reinforcements. The Yankees bullpen is going to get better as well. But let's talk about young Jason Dominguez here, who has been tearing it up for your Somerset Patriots. I know they announced today that they've extended his rehab window.
Wrong again, Thomas.
No, I think they have.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's an extension because it's a call up. It's rather a call up. Oh no, hang on a second. You are right.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Jason Dominguez is currently scheduled to continue his MLB rehab assignment with the Rail Riders on Tuesday, June the 4th at PNC Field. My apologies there. So that's
something about, I guess, if you get Tommy John surgery, which is something right normally you would see for pitchers, but because they have, I guess the same kind of thing. I don't think it really matters if it's a rehab or a he's getting moved there. But yeah, he's going to be going to Scranton to continue rehabbing with them.
So I did want to mention this because obviously this was this is breaking news as of the last couple of hours here because at the point the main point here when we brought up when is Dominguez coming up was almost if he's coming up, because with the way this Yankees outfield has been playing along with the DH death, they've stayed healthy, they produced at a high level. I don't know if there's a route for Jason Dominguez to be on the everyday lineup on this current roster with how things are shaking out. And now with this news piece of him going up to AAA, I was curious, like, okay, why not have him stay put in AA with Spencer Jones, who all of a sudden now started an uptick of offense now with Jason Dominguez up there. But I did get a note. Thomas, do you remember our good buddy Dane Huber, who we had on the show about a couple of weeks ago? Prospect specialist, NYY Underground, Boogie Nights. Shout out to Dane Huber and his relevant crews. Well, Dane Huber let me know that, and I quote, they are moving Dominguez up because they believe he is close to being ready. Also, they want Spencer Jones and Jason to make sure both getting everyday reps in center field. That wasn't going to happen with both of them in AA. So they wanted to have Jones continue to play center field in AA while Dominguez is continue to play center field in AAA. But it does appear, at least based on the note here made by Dane, that there could be an avenue that Jason Dominguez finds himself on the Major League roster. And Thomas, again, this is at the end of the day, we're talking about it. We're hearing all the different reports right now. We're hearing all the rumors. But if we're going to feed into it for just a little bit, Tom, if Jason Dominguez does get the call to the Major League level, how do you play him in this lineup if everyone continues to stay healthy?
That's the last part is the important thing, right? Things find a way. That we had the storyline a week ago of what will happen when Garrett Cole comes back. This rotation is so good. Clark Schmidt gets hurt; he's gonna be out for a few months. And it seems like that's gonna work its way out. So baseball finds a way, and we could see an injury happen. The tough thing is, right? So the odd man out, obviously, in the outfield would be Alex Verdugo. And if you look at his stats on the year, they're really not fantastic. If you're just going to say, I'm going to open up his baseball reference and look at his stats. But what Verdugo does bring is, he gets on base. He doesn't strike out. He's been hitting a lot of big hits, playing good defense. And I think, although this, you can't quantify this, he brings just something to the team. He brings an 100%. Energy. And I don't know if you can just sit him down. I don't think you can. So then the question is, the only other option is DH. And Giancarlo Stanton has been good this year. He's been hitting a lot of homers. He hasn't, if you look at just at his numbers, they're not fantastic. His power numbers are great. So could you bring Dominguez up there, and then you're kind of cycling between those four outfielders? You're cycling them through the DH spot. So like, hey, Judge, Soto, Verdugo, let's get a day off your feet. We're gonna get a DH. Let's get Dominguez, in the field, and he'll DH some days too. And Stanton will find ways to get in. Maybe, but I don't know. I don't know if there's a way in right now.
Right. I mean, it's tough. Again, just playing to it. Just playing if they're going to call him up. And whoever gets replaced, whether it's, Trent Grisham or Jahmai Jones, doesn't matter. What can you do? Well, let's look. Outfield DH depth, as you said, that's where we're targeting. Soto's got to stay in the lineup every day. Yeah. Judge has got to stay in the lineup every day. If you're calling up Dominguez, he has to be in the lineup every day. That's three outfielders right now. So you're down to a split between Verdugo as a lefty against right-handed pitchers and the vice versa with Giancarlo Stanton opposing left-handed pitchers. Now, I don't want to take Verdugo's glove out of the field. So on those days, they might consider either a DH platoon between Judge and Dominguez in center field while Verdugo plays left. And on the flip side of the house, while Stanton is your DH, Dominguez plays left field. I'm trying to figure out the way to make it work, but doesn't that just sound like so many moving parts to try to get Dominguez his quality playing time and still make sure Verdugo or Stanton are factors in the Yankees lineup and defensive schematic? I mean, it sounds kind of crazy, right?
I mean, I think getting Verdugo in means a lot more than Stanton. You know, Stanton's also, we always know, is always a step away from an injury. So I don't want to lose Verdugo in there. I don't want to just lose him against righties. Now, granted, you're gonna face righties most of the time, but I think if he becomes a platoon part-time player, there is something about this team. That this team has like a special feeling right now, and to remove one of the cogs of that team, if you look at some of the great teams in the past, right? They always tell stories of guys who aren't always right, like the middle of the lineup guys, or someone who has the highest average, has the most home runs. They talk about guys who were glue guys a lot, and Verdugo feels like that. And just removing him to put Dominguez in, I don't know. I don't like that. And I understand you don't owe Verdugo anything, but he's been a big factor this season. I don't like removing him.
Two things I'll add before we move on, because I got to shout out a bunch of people here in the chat because we got a lot of good notes here on this whole deal with Dominguez. Now, when it comes to Alex Verdugo, if you sit a player like that most days than you've had, doesn't that rub him the wrong way? And the guy who's been such a glue for this team might take that job now in the wrong way. I don't think you want that for the flow of the team. Like, again, I don't know if Alex is that guy. Alex could just be like, hey, listen, I'll do whatever I can. But a fiery attitude like that, I kind of worry where Verdugo would feel, like how Verdugo would feel about having a part-time job essentially within the Yankees lineup.
I agree. And I think ultimately the Yankees, and I was very against this going into the season. I remember actually arguing with Joe about it. I think Dominguez needs to stay down until there's an injury, until there's a way for him to not really just take someone's spot. Now, listen, if there's an injury I'm not going to say someone's name because I don't want to put that out in the atmosphere, but if there's an injury that happens and he comes up and he's raking, then when the person comes back, it could be, listen, sorry, I know they say injuries, you can't lose your starting spot, but you kind of just did to Jason Dominguez. That is fair. Yeah. And then if not, it's become September, and then you bring them up in September, and you start figuring it out from there, and then hopefully.
But here's the thing too. Like, I hear the September thing, but like, what does that do? We'll be in the same situation if players remain healthy.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no more minor league baseball to play, so it's not like you're taking him. You're not taking him away from at bat that he could be having. And listen, if the Yankees. If once you get to playoff baseball time, you want him there, right? If the Yankees are going to make noise in the playoffs, you want as many soldiers with you.
That I agree with.
And at that point,
you want everybody.
And at that point, I think, listen, if Stanton's in a 2 for 15 spell, and it's like, listen, sorry, Giancarlo, we're just gonna bench you, and Jason Dominguez is going to play, that's what happens. We've seen it happen before, and that's what I think ultimately happens.
The last note that I did want to make just before was I also think of where this team is at currently. The team, we mentioned it before, the team doesn't need Jason Dominguez. I worry when the Yankees make roster moves or lineup moves when things are going well, that seems unnecessary at the time. So while the Yankees are rolling right now and they're hot and the players are doing well and the outfield and DH depth is still healthy and producing, there's no reason to make that move right now. There's none. It's a more fluid conversation, as you mentioned before. If there's an injury, sure, Dominguez is our guy up. And if he produces on the major league level, that's even more of a difficult conversation when the time comes to activate somebody who would be in that spot. But we will move on from that because, again, it's a more fluid conversation when we get there. But I do want to get to all these fantastic comments, and thank you guys for letting them flow through here. SJ83 called Dominguez coming back would be their trade deadline, not counting maybe trying to swipe another bullpen arm or two. I do agree with that. There are troops on the way. outside of Cole Dominguez, you do have some bullpen pieces that are helpful. I've mentioned before on the show, Tom, that I think the Yankees could absolutely look into a left-handed reliever upgrade over Caleb Ferguson, who struggled hard in this 2024 season. Hopefully somebody with a little bit more velocity than a Caleb Ferguson or Victor Gonzalez. But that is definitely a note right there. Jack, Dominguez has to play every day. Otherwise, does not work for him or this team. And I agree. Tom, you make a great point, honestly, that now that you mentioned it, about the September call-up thing. Because if there's no minor league baseball to play, you have a playoff roster to assemble. And even if he's not getting regular reps, you want a guy like that on your roster to get you going for an October run, a deep one. And we've seen in October how many rookies had to make essentially their debut during a playoff run and make an impact. I mean, Xander Bogaerts, does anybody remember? For the Red Sox back in the day. So even though Xander Bogaerts didn't have a definite spot on the team, he was helpful.
Yeah, David Price I was like David Price with the Rays back in 2008. He was top pitching prospect. They said, "Hey, you're a closer now. Go do it." So
Mike Parziale, keep him down. Let him progress until next hour, or the inevitable injury plague hits Stanton, or one of those in the log jam. SJ83, would it be easier if Dominguez or any of them really had infield ability? Unfortunately, that's not the case. On the bright side, it's a positive problem. Yeah, if one of these guys could play first base, that would have been convenient. But that's an impossible conversation. Only difference is September roster size, players, spots, playing spots that stays same, but it's great to be in the playing environment and taking MLB reps in practice does go a long way for a young player. So again, and one more note here from Jacob Petruzzi, not to mention, it's say Verdugo gets injured in playoffs, you have young Dom or playoff roster, you could just sub him and you could keep Verdugo on the roster instead of bringing in an extra guy. Dane, this team is flowing together too well to make a big time roster move like Jason, and I agree with that. So let's move on. I have to take a sip of water after reading all of that. So thank you. 49 people in the building. Thank you guys for joining us. We're a half a show right now. It's just Tom and I holding down the Yankee side of the house, doing River Ave rewinds on great platforms like Instagram. And Thomas, tell the people more about Instagram.
I sure will. Yeah. So if you're watching us live on Instagram, thank you. But if you kind of follow us on Instagram for more of our traditional content, again, give a follow to Empire State of Baseball. We post reels. We have our game segments go up there. Other kind of things going on. Corey Fab's always cooking up some delightful reels. So give us a follow for some fun stuff. Again, some show related stuff, some not show related stuff. We try to keep it fun and light over on the Instagram. You can follow us individually at Corey Fabs, at JR Pugs, at Rich J Rivera, and at T Wospil. Get archived segments, graphics, new polls, the memes, the reels, all kinds of stuff. It's all happening on Instagram.
Let's do another round of shout outs here. A lot of people trickling in, 50 people. I guess they just heard like Joe's not on the show today. And now they're all showing up. Check out the Strike Zone. My guy NFE, give him a subscribe over on YouTube, doing great things over there. Mike Parziale, one of the best mods in the building. Belly to Belly show tonight. 4 Train Express. What's up, Mazza? Check out Mazza's stuff over at 4 Trade Express. Give him a subscribe. TC Steals over the Morning Brew Sports with Yanks Brew. Dane Huber of NYY Underground, Yankees Farm. Give him a follow and all his channels. Boogie Down Bronx. Hey, Rich, does ESB stand for Eastern Seaboard Baseball? And you have to read this for Christy Evans, who's driving. No, it does not. It does not. Mike Parziale again. Jack Esposito, shout out to you. My guy Joe, SJ83, shout out to Joe. Alana in the house, throwing it back to Savages in the Bronx. She was a Savages supporter over on Twitch, Tom. So a nice throwback there. Savages in the Bronx here on Empire State of Baseball. And my guy Hector over at the Morning Brew Sports. Give him a follow at Yanks Brew on X and on YouTube, Instagram, all the works. Hector and the crew do amazing things over on Morning Brew Sports. Okay, it's time to throw it over to Chooch, which is perfect for me because, again, I could take it easy for a little bit. So, Chooch, I don't know if Chooch can hear me. Hey, Chooch. I don't know if he can hear me, Tom. No, I'm kidding. He can't hear me because he already sent this out. So, Chooch, take it away. Pick of the week.
What's up, ESB crew? Chooch is back with Chooch's Pick of the Week. And this week, I'm going to go with a series, the AL Central. Starting tomorrow, Kansas City versus Cleveland. 2 surprising teams that I didn't think would be at the top of the division. Kansas City, young team, I think playing above their level, but I think they're going to push for the division lead this week. They're going to slash down the Cleveland lead in the division. Kansas City's taking this week's series. What do you guys get? My picks for players of the week. I think on the Kansas City side, always got to keep an eye out for Bobby Witt. It's been hot all year. Keep an eye on Bobby Witt for the player of the week for Kansas City. And for Cleveland, keep an eye on Josh Naylor. Guy has been hot all year. He's having the best season of his career. He's the player to watch this week for the Guardians. What do you guys think?
I don't like Josh Naylor.
He's
good player, but isn't he so annoying?
He is. I mean, he had the whole rock the baby situation, with Cole, and then kind of looked dumb. But yeah, he is definitely one of my most just like, I hate this guy in the league.
So Royals Guardians, tight American League Central, as it usually is. Tom, who do you got in this matchup between Kansas City and Cleveland?
Cleveland's home, right? It's the series happening.
Correct. Cleveland is home.
Yeah, so I'll take Cleveland. I've been kind of going back to these standings pages. They're the only team in that division who have a winning record against teams that have winning records. And the Royals are under 500 team on the road. Cleveland's 20-7 at home. So I'll take, it's a little bit of a cop-out, but I'll take Cleveland to win 2 out of 3. But possibly sweep. I don't know. I know the Royals have been a good story, but Cleveland does have some experience, some playoff experience on that team, and I think maybe they kind of let the Royals know not quite your year yet.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I'm going to roll with Chooch here. I'm going to go with Kansas City. I think Kansas City is going to flip history over on Cleveland right now. I was trying to pull up the probables, but it's just not working for me right now. But listen, if you have, in any of those matchups, you're looking at a guy like Cole Ragans or Seth Lugo, it's looking like a win each time those two are on the mound. Kansas City's pitching this year has been great. The young studs like Bobby Witt Jr., Michael Garcia leading that offensive core right now. I got Kansas City. I think, listen, Kansas City was a pick I had before we even kicked off this season. They were my AL Central pick. And even though Cleveland's leading that division and doing it very well, mind you, 37 wins on their ledger this year, I do have Kansas City flipping the division over with the starting series tomorrow. Kansas City, Cleveland. I got Kansas City in the match. And Chooch, thank you so much for the pick. Chooch had an overall record of 5-6, as we're now taking into account the win losses and the player to watches as well. So we have our eye on Josh Naylor and Bobby Witt Jr. So I'll keep you guys posted, of course, how Chooch does over on our platform, formerly known as Twitter, and that is X. And make sure to join our 3,000 plus followers on X if you haven't already. Make sure to give us individually a follow. That is at G Gory for Corey, at JR Pugs for Joe, at Rich J Rivera for your boy, at T Wospil for Tom, and also our subsidiary accounts covering the teams. We have at ESBNYM for Mets coverage and at ESBNYY for Yankees coverage. We're also blooming into some spaces. Joe hosted the space the other day, like literally during the Met game. He was losing his freaking mind. A lot of these folks right now who are in our chat were in that space that Joe hosted the other day. So we do have some spaces on the main page with Empire State of Baseball, but sometimes we'll split off. We'll do a Met space on the ESB NYM page, and then on the NYY page, we'll do some Yank stuff as well. All righty, Thomas, let's get into our big bit for tonight, and that is 3 up, 3 down. Now, Thomas, for those that are unfamiliar to 3 up, 3 down, you mind telling the folks what this bit is all about?
Sure. Yeah. So we're going to go through 3 different categories. First, an area of the team that we have the most confidence in. Of course, talking about the Yankees again. Mets, don't care. Our second one, we're going to talk about an area team where we have the least amount of confidence in. And then lastly, we will go to an area that has surprised us either positively or negatively. So I'll get us started about the positivity. Let's start there. And I'm going to go with the starting pitching staff. The Yankees starting pitching staff has been incredible this year. It's been well documented. When you lose Cole in spring training, doom and gloom feeling. I was literally I was at a minor league game or a spring training game when the news came out. I was wearing a Garrett Cole shirt, and it was pretty doom and gloom for me there. But it looks like he's on his way back. But the guys who have been filling in for him, doing incredible.
Pitching tomorrow in Somerset, by the way.
He does pitch tomorrow in Somerset. We talk about plus stats a lot on here. I've always liked the plus stats because it gives you an easy way to realize, is this guy doing well? Is not doing good, doing well or not well? 100 being average. Every member of the Yankees starting rotation has a over 100 ERA plus. Nestor's is the lowest at 115. But then you got Rodon plus 130, Stroman plus 147, Clark Schmidt now on the IL plus 159, and then led by Luis Gil at plus 201. So every member of the Yankees starting pitching staff has an above average ERA. And then again, especially when you're looking at what Gil's doing, at this point, Luis Gil, I'd have to look at the stats or whatever. He has to be the leading candidate for Rookie of the Year and Cy Young. Like there's not been a pitcher. I can't imagine there's been a pitcher who has been better than him. He's striking out a ton of guys. He's not giving up hits, not giving up runs. He's been incredible. So the starting pitching staff.
So I got a couple there, Tom, that are contesting right now, I'd say, and they do have a higher innings right now, which is not surprisingly, both at 78 innings apiece. Tanner Houck of the Red Sox, a 1.85 ERA. Record, not great, but we don't really judge record against, the best pitchers in the league anymore. Whip of 0.96, which is just 1 point higher. Oh, sorry, 1 point lower. Is it not 1 point higher than Hill? Hill's got a 1.95. Houck's got a 0.96. Seth Lugo of the Royals, we just mentioned before, 9-1, 1.72 ERA, a 1.01 WHIP. So right now,
yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's guys in the conversation.
Well, the Tigers too.
But I think that what we've seen with individual awards, unless the writers do like to reward guys who are doing it on winning teams and are doing it in big spots. If all the things are roughly equal, unless there's someone who is just absolutely destroying it, like Felix Hernandez back in the day on very bad Mariner teams. So it's a long season. Who knows? Like things could go another way, but he's been incredible this year. So Rich, what is your number one confident area?
Well, thankfully, my guy Jack Esposito and Boogie Down both have it here. It's the outfield. And I think when you're talking about most confident, there's a few positions that could fall in this category. That's how great the Yankees baseball has been. But I think at the top of the majority of fans' list, you're either talking about the starting pitching or the outfield. I'm going to obviously talk about the outfield here. The Yankees' 4 home run leaders are all in that outfield mix if you're including Giancarlo Stanton. Now, Stanton, of course, is the primary DH, so I don't know if we can get there. But if you're including Stanton, that's 60 home runs between Stanton, Soto, Verdugo, and why am I missing the fourth? Juan Soto.
Aaron. Oh, yeah. Oh, you said, okay, yeah.
How is he not the first person I mentioned? So, I mean, and listen, if we're just taking the production from Soto and Judge, I mean, these are 2 players with 1.0 OPSs. They're on pace to do something that 2 Yankees teammates haven't done since the 30s. I mean, it's unbelievable what these 2 players are doing when they're both scorching hot at the same time. Now, I will say this, and I've been kind of saying this on the spaces. What scares me about players being hot at the same time, they might be cold at the same time at some point. And hopefully that's not the case. Ebbs and flows of the season, right? We don't know, like, if there's going to be a time where Soto, has an 0 for stretch or Judge has an 0 for stretch. As long as someone's picking up the other, and that's what's kept the Yankees in for these last 2 months, because when Judge was slumping for the first month, it was the month of Soto. When Soto started to dip a little bit, that's when Judge took off. Now we're seeing both of them take off at the same time. It's unbelievable. And Alex Verdugo. I mean, again, what more can you say about what Alex Verdugo, the presence he's brought to this team, the defense he's brought to this team? I criticized the defense. I was one of those who was very worried about Verdugo being a left fielder of this team. He is shoved it in my face. Verdugo has been awesome in the corner outfield, left field specifically. So I got to give the outfield the edge with my number 1 spot with the confidence rankings. Dane Huber, best 2 and 3 since A-Rod and Griffey. I mean, if we're just talking all together in baseball, that is, I mean, this is an incredible comp right here to Alex Rodriguez and Ken Griffey Jr. All right, Thomas, least confident. What is the position of least confidence on this current New York Yankees team?
Yeah, for me, it's first base, and it's Anthony Rizzo. He hasn't he hasn't been great this year. Offensively, he's getting kind of slid down in the lineup. He is again, go to plus stats. He's at 87 OPS plus, meaning he's 13% worse than league average. He's only batting 240, but it's also his defense hasn't been great. There's been moments where his defense hasn't looked up to platinum glove level, which is what he has. He has a platinum glove back from his days with the Cubs. I don't know. It worries me. I think he's a good presence on the team. And if we talk about this logjam in the outfield, God, I wish one of those guys could figure out how to play first base. I don't think you can do that in the middle of the season. No, definitely not for guys, especially guys who never have done it. Maybe if someone who has kind of messed around with it, you could find a way. Anthony Rizzo is going to be our starting first baseman for the rest of the season, and I don't know. He worries me. He does worry me. But if you have him, further down the lineup, it's not going to be, I guess, as big of an issue.
Now, Boogie, Dane, and Jack here have third base, and third base is definitely one to touch on right now with DJ LeMahieu getting the primary starts and knowing that, hey, your depth is Oswaldo Cabrera, John Birdie if he comes back, Oswald Peraza if he gets the call. I'm not going to go third base here, though. I'm going to go second base, and I'm going to go, obviously, looking at Gleyber Torres. And it pains me to say it's Gleyber Torres because I'm a Gleyber Torres fan. It's just I would have thought for a player entering his contract season, we would have saw a player similar to what we saw last year, which I would consider his second best season with the Yankees in 2023. If we had gotten that player, Gleyber was going to make a nice little payday. Now, granted, it's June the 3rd. Anything can change from now and the end of the season. Gleyber can start mashing tomorrow against the Minnesota Twins and ride that heater for a good majority of the season. But second base does worry me because it's Gleyber. It's a poor defense of Gleyber as well. And then after him, it's 36-year-old DJ LeMahieu. It's the two bench players I just mentioned before. It might be Peraza. Hell, it might go all the way down to Caleb Durbin. But right now at second base, I don't really have confidence from an organizational standpoint that this should be a position that should make us feel good. And it should make us feel good because Gleyber Torres, prior to the season, Tom, where we have him ranked in our playing rankings, I think we had him ranked 6th. So Gleyber Torres needs to find a way to get back to 3/4 of that player that we know and love in Gleyber Torres.
Yeah, I mean, he has been better as of late. So I just kind of ran through Baseball Reference to try to find it. I went back to May 14th. So we're talking about a 3-week sample size there. And in that time, he has a 279 batting average and a 792 OPS. So those numbers are certainly not bad. Only 2 homers in that time frame, but yeah, he's been hitting better as of late. But I agree, you would think going into that contract year, not that I'm going to worry about what's in Gleyber Torres' bank account, but like it's going to be kind of interesting to see what the market is for him this offseason, because if things go the way the Yankees want with Juan Soto, I don't think Gleyber's coming back, and we'll see. But again, that's a conversation we could have much further 100%. Down the line.
Last piece, kind of a new one added to the 3 up, 3 down, but which player on the team has surprised you most, whether surprised you in a good way or surprised you in a bad way? Choose one player. Tom, who is that player for you?
Yeah, so I mean, we've kind of done a bit of the greatest hits of the Yankees topics with the starting pitching, the outfield. Always talking about Gleyber and then Rizzo. So I want to go a little bit more off the beaten path, and I'm going to go with Jose Trevino behind the plate. He is having his best offensive season we've seen with the Yankees so far, even better than his all-star campaign in 2022. While his defense has stayed elite, especially his framing ability. So that's, if you're going to get the best, strike stealer in the league, while also being a plus offensive bat, he's been slightly above average if you go against the entire league. Something you take, all day. I saw something the other day where they had like the umpire scorecards, and it was, what team has benefited the most from bad umpiring, quote unquote bad umpiring. The Yankees were second, and that was because they had by far the most, stolen strikes, and that's because of Trevino and Austin Wells as well. Doing a good job framing. He's been really good, and the bat's been there as well. He's been a pleasant surprise for someone who is his absolutely a fan favorite.
Yeah, so the popular choice here in the chat here, Thomas, and I absolutely agree with you. The thing with Jose Trevino, and I hate that I'm jumping around right now, but the thing I love about Jose Trevino, it seems like he's the sort of player that loves playing to pressure. 2 years ago when he was acquired by the team, he was supposed to be the backup to Kyle Higashioka, and he played up to his role, was an all-star that year. Fantastic season for Jose Trevino, and then the second half kind of blew up. The next season, had his injured plague season. Coming to this season, Austin Wells was about to be christened that starting job as catcher. And once again, Jose Trevino played to the pressure of having another player that he had to compete with for that starting job. And Trevino right now, he is the starting catcher of this team with the way he's been playing. And I love seeing what Trevi has been doing for not only on the offensive side of the house, but what he's done for this pitching staff as well. Trevi has been fantastic. So there's a lot of Luis Hill in our chat right now, Thomas. And I will say, just kind of pull back the curtain a little bit. I was going to go with Luis Hill as my pick, but Thomas over here shot it down. And I need to know, why did you shoot it down?
Well, listen, the whole point of these segments is to have conversations. And we already talked about Luis Hill when we talked about the starting rotation. So,
all right,
if you want to just talk about him again, go for it. But let's give maybe someone else some love who hasn't gotten a lot of love this year.
Sure, and I will, because there's a couple of candidates for this. So although Luis Hill is
spread the love,
my number one, I'm going to go with what Romeo mentioned here and Jack as well, and that's Luke Weaver. And Luke Weaver, when that re-signing happened beginning of the season, there are fans who just wondered, like, why Luke Weaver? Why are you bringing this player in? He didn't really show you much in 2023. But I sat back and I was like, wait, remember, hang on now. The Yankees and Matt Blake have turned some of the oddest pitchers from obscurity to gold, just with whatever they got going on. Well, whatever they got going on back there, I'm not even going to try to guess how they're reinventing these pitchers, but we could run down that list. Clay Holmes and Wandy Peralta, Lucas Licky, even if we want to say that, Ian Hamilton, and now you can add Luke Weaver to that list as well. And I had a feeling, hey, listen, if you're going to take a gamble on a former first-round draft pick with the Cardinals, once a highly touted starting pitcher, and see what he can do in the bullpen. Luke Weaver's been incredible this season for the New York Yankees. A sub-3 ERA. Kind of blew up a little bit because there's been a couple appearances over the last 2 weeks that he gave up a few runs, but prior to that, he was absolutely flawless. And still, he is the second best, probably the most dependable reliever outside of Clay Holmes in the back end of that Yankees bullpen. Luke Weaver is my player of most surprise in a good way, without a doubt. And let's see what's happening here in the chat. Got a lot of good stuff going on. Dane, Tonkin has been very good also. Michael Tonkin, pitcher the Yankees picked up for cheap from the New York Mets. He's got a 1.10 ERA with the Yankees in 10 games thus far. So he's doing great things. Tonkin has performed well since Blake got his hands on him. Again, you hear the term Matt Blake effect, but I think these are the kind of pitchers, Tom, that Blake has the most success with. There are fans I've literally seen and heard, and my guys here in the chat can confirm, who have said, hey, you think the Yankees should bring in Edwin Diaz and see what Blake can do with him? Edwin Diaz would not fall well to what Blake is doing because Edwin Diaz is an established multiple-time all-star reliever. Edwin Diaz is just going to continue to do what Edwin Diaz has done for the last few years, despite his struggles. Matt Blake works well with pitchers who have the potential to show you something, but really haven't put it together on the major league level. Am I wrong?
No, that's exactly it, and it's almost like a cheat code for the Yankees to find value in the bullpen, right? As a team that yes, the Yankees could spend money on every position if they wanted to, but because they are going to operate under some kind of budget, like all teams do, the fact that they can save money on bullpen and not kind of bring in these high-priced relievers, and they can just have Matt Blake fix Luke Weavers out there and pick up Ian Hamilton's off of scrap heaps. Yeah, it is a huge advantage that the Yankees have with Matt Blake and his whole staff.
100%. A couple of shout outs real quick. Shout out to Swift. joining the crew here late. Our guy Romeo as well, throwing some cool comments in our chat. And our guy Michael Caputo is also here as well. Shout out to Michael Caputo. I did want to throw this out for our guy Corey Fabs, who did message us right before the show of what he wanted to list out for his most confident, least, and surprising. So I'll just throw it out real quick. For most confident for the New York Mets, he has JD Martinez in that spot. JD Martinez, I mean, the guy, it seems like he just doesn't age, man. And he is once again building up some stock for a good trade piece for the New York Mets to acquire there come the midseason. So like what JD Martinez is doing so far with the Mets. I don't know if you wanted to add a comment or you just want me to just run through this.
Yeah, I mean he's gonna be a nice impact bat on a team when he's traded in a month or so.
Correct. For least confidence, he has the bullpen. Everybody essentially not named Reed Garrett. And again, as I mentioned before, with the way Edwin Diaz has faltered in that closer role, now being added to the IL, you got to worry for that Mets bullpen, which is really being led by Garrett and a pitcher by the name of Sean Reed Foley, who used to pitch with the Toronto Blue Jays. And for surprising, he goes surprisingly bad here. Second base with Jeff McNeil's regression. And we've talked about McNeil at length. This is a guy, former batting title winner, and part of that core that Joe ranted about last week. And, even a player like that can find something, can really be a dynamic piece to that Mets offense. So, yeah, surprisingly dead. I'd say Jeff McNeil's a good pick.
Yep, Agreed.
Keep it simple. Love it. Well, that's it. 3 up, 3 down. So I'll turn it over to you, Thomas, for rollback, and then we have a little trick of the trade. So, Thomas, take it away.
Yeah, listen, everyone, Father's Day is less than 2 weeks away, and
Can't believe it.
I could tell you as a father myself, there is no better gift on Father's Day than a nice order from Roback. I'm rocking the Chubbs polo here right now. Little Happy Gilmore design with the with the golf cart.
Excuse my language. That's Chubbs from Happy Gilmore. Let's go.
Chubbs Happy Gilmore. I know they just got this one restocked in the shop there. It's called the Chubbs. If you're looking for it, they have so many different options. But yeah, listen. Roback is a great gift, for Father's Day out there with the polos. Again, we're into the summer now. They got really nice shorts. They have shorts that have the belt loops or, ones that more the elastic waistbands, bathing suits, the Q-zips, the hoodies, if you want to stock up for the winter. Listen, it's high quality stuff, and you want to get your dad something nice. Getting him Roback is going to absolutely accomplish that. And listen, you can save yourself 15% on that order if you use promo code TWASPL15. Now, will your order get here by next week? I don't know. I can't make any kind of guarantees with that, but I can tell you if you order sooner than later, it's going to give you a lot better chance. So if you want to get something, hopefully in time, without paying for that express shipping, which I know they have that as well. Again, head to roback.com, use promo code TWASPL15, get yourself 15% off your order.
Nicely done, Thomas, as always. Roback, and that is that code TWASPL15 for all of those of you in the back. Let's get the trick of the trade. Now, typically, as always, we usually have a Met one and a Yankee one, but we don't have Met people today. So I have one Yankee trade to throw up there. And
hide the chat real quick. Okay. Yeah, I was hiding the chat. I don't cheat like Joe.
Okay.
So it's high in the chat, so we're good.
All right. So our trick of the trade, it is a Yankee deal here. So let's throw it back now to July 26th of 2018, where the Yankees acquired Jay Happ from the Blue Jays, and they send Brandon Drury and this player back to the Blue Jays. Thomas, let's start the timer, which is not real.
Yeah, no, it's not. I do give him 3 strikes, though. Man, I feel like it shouldn't be that hard, but there's not a lot coming to mind.
That's good. Love hearing that.
Let's see.
I got to give hints to you and everything.
It's not... He went there, but this is way early. It's not Tyler Clippard, right?
It is not Tyler Clippard, who's thrown around in a lot of different deals involving the Yankees and multiple other teams. All right, so this player is an active player in baseball. He's played in 6 seasons.
Okay, so this would have been.
I'll throw you a position. I'll throw you a position. Outfielder.
Okay, so this is a guy then who never played on the Yankees, it probably was a minor leaguer, because if he's played for 6 seasons, that would have kind of excluded him. God, I feel like it shouldn't be that much of a hard one.
Do you have a correct guess in the chat? The only guess in the chat was correct. Very good.
God. Slade Heathcott. He got traded to
That's
Oakland,
a great guess, but
right.
not Slade
right.
Heathcott. So you're down to
It's
strike.
not right.
All right, you're down to your final strike here. No, so you did mention, you said that you thought this player played in the minor leagues. No, he did not. He actually played for the Yankees on the major league level in 2 seasons.
2 seasons. He's active, but then he hasn't. But he's only played 6 seasons, and he has to be some like injury situation then, or got sent down. He's active now.
He hit 227 last year with the New York Yankees.
Well, he played on the Yankees last year. What's his name? Oh God, what's his name? I know him. Oh God,
Oh boy.
I'm not gonna. Damn
We're
it.
right there.
We are.
Come on, Thomas. Fall. Give me the damn point.
I'm gonna give you the. I can't pull the name right now.
Let's go. All right. Let's settle down here. Let's settle down. We're gonna throw it to the chat for the correct guess, and the correct guess is Billy McKinney.
Billy McKinney. Yeah.
Billy McKinney. Good job, Nathan.
Yeah.
Good job, Nathan. Billy McKinney is.
I kept thinking of Jake Bauer. I'm like, it's not Jake Bauer. It's not him. But like, it's another one of those just bad outfielders that we trotted out in left field last year.
Part of the Fantastic Four from last year: Billy McKinney, Jake Bowers, Willie Calhoun, and who was the other one? Franchi Cordero, I think, was the Fantastic Four from last year.
Oh yeah, he was doing it out there as well.
My goodness.
Everson Pereira. I mean, at least he's different.
Shout out to my guy Ian. Rich Rivera knows how to get down. No, he's seen those dance moves. I know. Listen, man. We just came back from Vegas. We had a great time out in Vegas. I don't know if he had a camera crew out there show him to get down over at one of the clubs over there. So, yes, thank you for that, Ian. Now, let's call it a show, Thomas. And before we do that, I do have a couple announcements for y'all. Starting with this one. Anthony Rivera, friend of the program. He's host over at Subway to Shea. They do a great job with their Yankees live stream over here on YouTube. And also, Anthony's been working recently with Morning Brew Sports for their Mets Evening Brew show, I believe, which is on Tuesdays or Wednesdays. I forgot. We'll talk to him next week, though, and find out more about Anthony Rivera's ventures with Morning Brew Sports. So Anthony will be joining us as part of our Creator Spotlight bit. That is for episode 88 this Monday, June the 10th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. But, Thomas, there's more. And we had a pretty big announcement. And if you followed us on X lately, you probably know what that announcement is already. But for those of you who don't know, shout out to my guy, Nithin Ramatandra. And I mentioned earlier today that I was going to bring up Nithin and his entire team over at the NR Sports Show, because Nithin was kind enough, along with his team, to link us up with a special guest for our newest At the Plate segment that's going to be on July 1st at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific, and that is 1996 and 1998 World Series champion Jim Leyritz joined the show once again, July the 1st, 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, and that was Nithin's announcement over the weekend while I was away. So thank you to Nithin. Thank you to the entire NR Hour Sports Show team for setting this up. And Tom, once again, we have a chance to talk to another former World Series champion of the New York Yankees, and Jim Leyritz.
Sure. And before you make your questions, it's 96 and 99, not 96 and 98. He was not on the 98 team.
Okay.
But But listen, he had some legendary moments, especially in the 96 World Series against the Atlanta Braves. And I am very excited to talk to him, to talk to the second greatest Yankee to ever wear number 13.
Jim Leyritz, and no, you're correct there. In 1996 and 1999, 100%. This is why we have Thomas here. Thomas backs me up, corrects me when I'm wrong. I'm wrong a lot of times. I'm more wrong than I'm right there. But Jim Leyritz joining our show, 1996 and 1999 World Series champion with the New York Yankees.
To be fair, was, I think, actually in the 1998 World Series just with the San Diego Padres. So if you want to say, is he there?
Well, he was there, but not a champion. So 96 and 99 World Series champion, Jim Leyritz. Monday, July the 1st, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, episode 91. Mark your calendars, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to be a big episode for us on Empire State of Baseball, and we appreciate the love from everybody. And of course, once again, final shout out to Mr. Nithin Ramatandra. Thomas, it's time for our thank you train at 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time. We held down an hour and 5 by ourselves. Give yourself a pat on the back, Thomas. I know you're going to give yourself one later, but Thomas, go ahead. Thank you, train. Get us started.
Yeah. Rich, I'll throw the thanks to you. Today's a bit of a hectic day. I know we had some things unfortunately going on with Corey and Joe. So a lot of shuffling to figure out how this show is going to go. So thank you, Rich, for doing all that work and making sure the show stays on track.
I appreciate that. I'm genuinely shocked to hear something positive from Tom regarding me for once. That's crazy.
Also, thank you, Juan Soto. The Giants stink. Get out of here, Giants.
Wow. Double
Aaron
win.
Judge owns you.
Oh my goodness. I love it. All right. I'll take it. No, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And again, special shout out to Corey and Joe, hoping everything is well on their end. Of course, we missed our fellow co-host. And we do miss talking Mets and seeing Joe turn red in the face over his Mets team. Thank you to everybody here in the chat who joined us for this episode of Empire State of Baseball. As Tom mentioned, it was a weird episode. Only a 2-man show, but yet 62 people showed up for us. And, of course, we had some more viewers trickle in from Instagram. So thank you so much for that. We will see you all here next Monday. Remember, Anthony Rivera, he joins us from Subway to Shea. We'll be talking to him on the Creator Spotlight. That's 8 p.m. next week. We will see you there. Take care.